Hello everyone, and welcome to the very first episode of Duel Casters, the podcast where we bring on a bunch of old Duel Masters players from all the history of Duel Masters and just have a nice conversation and talk about the history of the game. Now, if you watched the History of Duel Masters, you may have remembered the name Lee Sandow. And today we have Lee on the podcast today. Lee, welcome. How are you doing today?
I am doing great. Thank you so much for having me. The funniest thing, a couple months back at this point, I just had a huge nostalgia trip one night where I was thinking about Duel Masters. I just went to YouTube. I typed Duel Masters into the search bar because I just wanted to hear other people wax nostalgic about this game that I used to play that I really liked. And I wound up on this channel. I watched the first one of the retrospective of base set. That was great. I loved it. So immediately, Evo Crushionators, let's go. And then about 10 minutes in, we're looking at the deck profiles of blue-black control deck on screen. And I'm like, oh, hey, that looks like a deck I used to play. And then Ben's just like, this deck was from Lee Sandow. My jaw went down here. And I was like, okay, you now have my undivided attention. I binged the entire series up to that point in a night. Sent you a big old long email. I'm sure you remember.
I swear.
Yeah, here we are.
It was like destiny that it was gonna happen, because I remember when I was like making some of those episodes, I was like thinking like, man, wouldn't it be so cool if I could like get in contact with Lee somehow and like kind of find out more about like this Galactic Quest meta and all this stuff that was going on in these tournament reports. Like there is some questions I had about it. I'm like, I would just love to know these things. And then you found me just by pure chance.
Whatever you want to know.
And just the timing too was incredible, because it was like right when I was like finishing. We had finished filming all the episodes, and I was just editing at that point. So I was like, I was ready to start this new podcast, and then bam, there you were out of nowhere.
Yeah, well, the algorithm found us, and here we are. So if you got questions, I'm here to answer them as best as I can. I saw some people in the comment sections had some questions. I only have one answer right now. Why did I play Aqua Jolter over Aqua Surfer? The answer is because I was dumb. I have no justification. I think that was Kyle who asked that. I don't have an answer for you. You are right.
There is like, looking back on it, there were so many like choices that everybody made in deck building that like in hindsight are so obviously like not the right choice. But like like you said, we were just dumb back then.
Yeah, well, you got to figure. And that's something I've been thinking about a lot this week, and watching your series reminded me. It's just this was before Facebook. This was before YouTube. This was so much earlier in the age of social media. There just wasn't as many ways to share lists, and especially like you said in your videos, for the first couple sets before Wizards started publishing deck lists on their site and we started having tournaments of the 5 civilizations with reports, there wasn't a lot of communication. And even more than that, in our own respective shops, a lot of people weren't building decks. They were playing with cards they owned. There weren't the big online booming markets like there are for Magic the Gathering or Yu-Gi-Oh or Pokemon these days.
Like
a lot of folks just had to play with what you had.
Like in modern games, like you look at the top deck lists and you just assume that like everybody in the top 8 has the money to afford every single card that they could ever want for their deck. And like the decks are built perfectly to how they want to play them. But like back then, like most of us were just little kids. And so like maybe our mom only gave us a small allowance, and so we had to build a deck with that allowance. So
I know. I was 16 when Duel Masters came out, so I had the kind of luxury of being comparatively well off to actually spend money. I had a lawn mowing job. I got a little bit of spare change here and there, so I actually was able to be like, I will get a couple booster packs today. And compared to a lot of the other folks who were even younger, it was what you could scrape together with your allowance and what you could win from prizes. And of course, with the prize base just pure, you get paid in booster packs. The rich get richer,
Yep, that's honestly like one of the reasons I feel like I did pretty well was it was the rich got richer. I won one of the first 5 civilizations tournaments, and then I had all the cards I needed, and it just kept going that way. And I really like didn't spend that much money on cards. I got pretty lucky. And I guess Duel Masters also is the kind of game where like you don't really need like play set of like $50 cards, at least until Bomb Bazaar came out. But like before that, the most expensive card,
it is a
maybe Terror Pits, like, and even that wasn't that expensive.
Yeah, outside of some of the blinged out promos, I remember Terror Pit was one of the chase cards. If you were playing green, Natural Snare was real big for a while.
Yeah.
Anybody playing the Light Civilization, if you weren't running Holy All, what were you even doing with yourself?
Oh, exactly. Before we get ahead of ourselves, I think maybe you should just take a minute to introduce yourself and maybe give us a quick background on how you got into Duel Masters and how you got started playing TCGs in general, maybe, and maybe we can just go from there chronologically. And
yeah, sure. So my history with trading card games, I started like most people about my age did. Pokemon was real big right as I was leaving elementary school, getting into middle school. And I was one of the people who I didn't just collect the cards the way like my younger brother and his friends did. I actually played them. I built the Haymaker deck with Hitmonchan Electabuzz. I had a green beatdown deck with Scyther and Pinsir, and it was so bad. It was such a bad deck. So I played Pokemon for a while, and in one of your videos, you mentioned the shop I played at, Galactic Quest, which I started playing Pokemon at, but then I left. We'll be coming back to there later. At the time, Wizards of the Coast still operated a series of retail stores, and there was one at the mall not too far from my house, Gwinnett Place Mall, which most of y'all will probably know as Starcourt Mall from Season 3 of Stranger Things. They filmed that there.
Oh, wow.
A bunch of years later. But Wizards of the Coast had a shop there, and since they were the people who in America were printing Pokemon at the time, they were having the bigger tournaments. They were doing the things where you could get gym badges for competing. And so that's where I played that for a long time and met a lot of names who I'm going to be repeating later. Stefan Slack, Stephen Cantrell, whose deck you featured in episode 6, I believe.
Yeah. Thanks to all of like your tournament reports and like inspiring other people's tournament reports, we've gotten we had a lot of deck lists from a lot of those names that you just mentioned that we had like on the wheel for the history. Not all of them got to be used, but there was a lot of those names.
Yeah, you only have so
over
many.
And over.
Right. So we played Pokemon there until the Wizards of the Coast store did eventually, like they all did, they closed their retail locations. At which point we went back to Galactic Quest, since it was fairly nearby and it was a good epicenter to all of us. We played Pokemon a little longer until that game it was in very much its popularity, the bottom of which it ever hit. I know it's way back up there these days.
Yeah.
But then so we gravitated over to Yu-Gi-Oh for a while, it was buoyed by a TV show that I watched before I went to play tournaments. So that's what people were playing. That's what I played. So we played that for a while, and it was fine. I had fun. Played it recently when that new app came out, and I can't keep up with it. It's a little too complicated.
It's a way different game now than it used to be.
Completely different beast. But again, I'm wavering off topic. So one day we're about to have our Duel Masters tournament. We've all shown up, and Kyle Puttkammer, owner of Galactic Quest, has this big box of stuff that he's got from Wizards of the Coast. And he's like, hey, y'all, instead of Yu-Gi-Oh, would y'all like to get a bunch of free new cards and play something new today? And now you're talking to a bunch of, at this point, 14, 15, 16-year-olds, us.
Oh, yeah.
And we're like, free cards?
Yeah, free. That sounds amazing.
Yes, dude. Yeah,
you can't say no.
So we can't. So we each got a copy of the starter deck that came out, the one with the foil Rothus the Traveler that had like the red.
Oh, yeah.
Fire, light, and nature cards in it. And so we each got those, and it came with a booster pack, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, I think it did.
The stipulation was we had to. Yeah, we were going to play a tournament. Everyone's just playing that. You could use what was in the booster pack if you wanted to. And the cards were ours to keep. All we had to do at the end of the day was fill out a survey. And so we were like, oh, yeah, let's do this.
Nice.
And Duel Masters is a pretty easy game to learn. It's one of the things about it. It's got a lot of strategic depth, but the overall rule structure, the 5 shields, mana is this, it's upside down. It's very straightforward.
Yeah, it's very easy to pick up and very easy for new players to get into. And I think that's one of the big appeals of the game and how a lot of people got involved with it, is just how simple it was to get started.
I completely agree. So we each played that day. We were filling out our surveys. I remember opening my booster pack after I'd played a couple games, just because I hadn't gotten to it yet. I was too busy playing. And I was thumbing through it, and I got a foil Gigargan, which was in one of my packs. It was the foil I got. I was like, ooh, I got a foil. And I just remember I was going down the survey about that same time, and it was asking for comparisons to other card games because they're doing competition research, and then
of course
Yu-Gi-Oh was kind of king at the time, so a lot of questions were about Yu-Gi-Oh. So it was like, compared to Yu-Gi-Oh, how do you think of this? But the one that stuck out to me was the art. So I'm looking at Gagargan, which is this 3 big-headed monstrosity. He's breathing steam out of his mouth into this rainy downpour with like lightning or something happening. The card blends with the frame. It's just a sick-looking card. I love that card. And then I look over at the top card of my Yu-Gi-Oh decks, and there's like, I remember it was DD Warrior Lady. I specifically remember the card. It's just this person standing in the center of a frame. There's not really much going on in the background. It's just kind of blood. The Yu-Gi-Oh card frame has all the wasted real estate and the big red circles and stuff. And then I'm looking at this Duel Masters card, and I'm just like, bruh, what are we doing here? This thing looks amazing.
Yeah, the art is so good.
And then I love the art on Duel Masters cards. And then later, after completing it, I don't think I won a game or two, so we got another prize pack, and I pulled a Zagan Knight of Darkness. We'll be coming back to this one, I'm sure, later.
Now, just to butt in for a second, do you know, is that one that you have, like, the physical same Zagan, like the first one that you pulled? Or is it maybe a different one?
I believe it's probably a different one, because if I know me, Zagan never left my deck. And if I thumb through this right now, I'm pretty sure... Where are you, buddy? I know you're in here somewhere. I never took you out. Here he is.
Oh, so yeah, maybe
Knight of Darkness.
Maybe that's the original one. We don't know.
I think this is it. I kept this in my deck. I played it at the North American Championship. Some guy in round 1 smarted off at me about running a Zagan. Took it personally. I made sure to deliver the final attack with Zagan. I am a petty man sometimes.
That's incredible. I love it.
Yeah, so that card is very special to me. And once again, I just remember looking again afterwards at this Zagan who's coming out of the frame with his sword. His horns are sticking up into the type line. And I was just like, this guy is sick.
Yeah, the way the super rares kind of like come out of the frame is like, I always thought that was really cool and just made them look just like extra special. So yeah, the super rares always had just incredible art, in my opinion. That's always stood out to me.
Yeah, and I know Pokemon started doing that somewhat around the same time, but it's not something I'd really seen much up to that point. I know these days it's all the rage, but back then it was just like, it was so different.
There's always like I always say how like card games have power creep, right? But like the artwork has its own kind of power creep where like you want to make the art in the next set even more impressive than the previous set. So you have like originally like all the cards are like in the frame, and now you have the super rares sticking out of the frame. And then how do we get better than that? Oh, let's make the full art cards, and then it just keeps getting more crazy. And
I have seen the art in the frames of some of the Duel Masters Plays cards, the newer Japanese cards. And I'm just looking at those being like, I think there's text there. I'm not 100% sure.
It gets crazy. It gets crazy for sure. So I guess
keep it legible. Go for it.
Yeah. So kind of sticking on the topic of art and stuff, because you said art kind of is one of the things that drew you to the game at first. Do you have any like favorite artwork on cards, or is it just the Zagan? Or
I think if you ask me my favorite art, it's still Zagan, just because I love all his little bones and skeletons coming down. But there's a lot of other really cool ones too. I always thought the art on Karile, he looks so cool. He looks like one of the aliens out of Independence Day.
Yep.
And is a card that you play. If you're playing blue black, like I like to do, you're playing Karile.
Oh yeah, for sure.
So
almost any deck with blue.
And I find the art of a lot of cards it's very charming. Stuff like what's his name? I am not pink. Mighty Shouter,
Mighty Shouter. Yep.
Yeah, I loved him. There was just a bunch of cool ones, just like the simplicity of something like Aqua Hulkus, or I loved how the fiery creatures looked so. What's the word I'm looking for? Kind of worn. The world looked just so kind of worn and lived in. It wasn't all sterile, which I feel like Yu-Gi-Oh cards would sometimes look like.
That makes sense.
Or the Pokemon cards that just use the stock, Tsukimori art just over a background. It just looks so kind of just.
And also with something like
more.
Oh, sorry. I was gonna say with something like Pokemon, it's all like repeating, like, oh, it's how many Charizards can you have? It's still Charizard. But in something like Duel Masters, you get like a bigger variety because every card is just its own thing.
And I think one of the best parts about it is there's no humans in it. Not anywhere. We have various humanoids,
right?
But I mean, we have like our anime protagonists and stuff like that in the anime, but in the actual card game, they're nowhere to be found. At least not in the earlier stuff outside of promos, which I think helped because we're not having to see weirdly proportioned humans next to these crazy angels of different spires and stuff like that, or weirdness going on there.
It kind of gave you the feeling that like there was this lore and like all the you had like the lore from all the like flavor text and stuff, and it felt like a world that was built and there's like these actual battles going on, and then you're playing out the battles rather than like controlling people in some way, I guess, if that makes any sense. Like you are the one doing the controlling.
And there was the whole big lore of the things. One of the things I did early that you've already alluded to is I started writing tournament reports and other articles for Pojo.com, and one of them I would do and update every set would be, okay, here's where we are with the lore right now, just going off the flavor text. I had footnotes where I was like, here's what this one said, here's what this one said. Yeah. And so I was doing all that, and the flavor text, sometimes it was really cool with, ominous sounding things. Or the attack on the Fiona Woods and stuff like that. And then other times we get the jokey kind of memey flavor text, which is a lot of fun. It's just got this certain sort of goofy charm to it of a game that, look, at the end of the day, we're cartoon monsters duking it out. Let's not take ourselves too seriously, And
that's one of the reasons I always liked my favorite card so much, Garabon the Glider, because of its flavor text. Yar, who's up for a snowball fight? Like, you have these giant creatures going to war, and then here is just this flying snowman that wants to have a snowball fight.
That's it. Hey, if it breaks a shield, it breaks a shield. Let's do it.
Yeah, exactly. So I guess from here, let's start talking about those tournament reports though, because we kind of mentioned earlier how like back in this time there wasn't like deck lists posted and stuff online. When we were making the History of Duel Masters, the main go-to resource that we had was going through old Pojo tournament reports and like finding the decks there, and just like if somebody won a tournament and happened to post a report on it, then we could use their deck as like an example of a deck that won a tournament. And just because of that,
meaningful data.
And so we had to go with just the people that were writing tournament reports. And there was this era from maybe like the end of 2004 into like mid 2005 or so, where I would say maybe somewhere on the order of like 50 to 60% of all the tournament reports written came out of you and out of Galactic Quest. So we kind of had like this experience of seeing all of kind of this one concentrated area of just like the metagame from one area, and that was like what preserved that area, or that era of Duel Masters history. And so you kind of play this big role in preserving this metagame, which I think is amazing. So maybe if you want to just like talk more about how you got started on writing these tournament reports, or like what inspired you to be like the one person that was putting their stuff out there when other people were just like either not posting things or just didn't want to share their deck lists, because there was also people that wanted to keep their decks secret at the time.
Yeah, I know that was definitely a thing. So I didn't have a problem with kind of sharing my deck list, mostly because I borrowed it from someone else. One of the very first weeks, like week 3, I think the game had come out. We were all still playing with our barely modified starter decks. Some guy, I didn't catch his name, he showed up with a blue-black constructed deck, sat down, smoked everybody, refused to elaborate further, and left. We never saw him again.
Oh no.
I do not know who he is or what his deal was, but all I knew was that deck was incredible. Just from what I remembered seeing, as I lost badly, I was like, I have to reconstruct this.
What do you remember, like what set was out at the time? Was this like in set?
Base set.
Just base set.
Just the base set.
Oh, okay. Interesting.
Yeah, so this was like right when the game, I think our store might have gotten our kits like a little before the official release. I don't unfortunately remember the exact dates. What I do know is, so I then reconstructed that, since a lot of the cards for it were easy to acquire. You had your Spiral Gates, your Death Smokes, your...
Yeah, like all the staples tended to be commons and uncommons and super easy to acquire play sets for.
Yeah, and just acquire a terror pit here and there, and you're basically, but you're done. So, and then also the mall tour. Where did you ever have an opportunity to go to any of the mall tours?
Yeah, we had one in Illinois. I remember I went and it was just like incredible the amount of like stuff they had there. I wish I had more pictures from it. But like everything was, they had like the life size like cutouts of some of the creatures and just like
yeah, they did.
Yeah, just like all the whole setup they had was just incredible.
They did. They had the giant cards. They're like yay big.
Yeah.
The people were walking around actually playing and holding them up and stuff. They had a giant Holion, and that's the closest I've ever come to just stealing something and running as fast as I can. I'll get back to that. I never stole a card, don't worry. But I went there that weekend because I saw a commercial on the television before I was watching Yu-Gi-Oh! Before I was going to go to Galactic Quest of the day, and I was just like, never mind, I'm going to the mall. So, unfortunately, by this point, I was 16. I wasn't having to rely on my mom or my dad to get me to the card store every week like I had to when I was playing Pokemon or earlier on. So, yeah, it was usually my mom who drove me. Did you have someone who had to take you there every time? Who was that?
The people in the Chicago area always joked that my mom was like not the soccer mom, but the TCG mom, because she drove me to all the tournaments and stuff. And shout outs to my mom. I would not have been able to play that game and like been as involved with the community if it weren't for her. So
nope, exactly the same thing. Shout outs to our moms. Everyone in the comments, who drove you? Who was the one who drove you? Shout them out in the comments below.
Yes, definitely.
All right. Yeah, let's drive the engagement, get this on trending. Wizards will have to bring the game back and we get to #1 on trending. Let's do this. All right. So I went to the mall tour where they were just giving out those Rothus starter decks to literally anybody who would sit down. And they were also giving out DCI cards.
Oh.
And so everyone's sitting there playing with their pre-constructed deck or with their starter deck. I roll in with blue-black control.
Oh, it's over then.
Knowledge of knowing how to play, and I just cleaned house all weekend. I was just beating people, and then a lot of the kids were like, this game's no fun. It was a while. If I wasn't playing, I was just kind of loitering by the trash cans being like, were you about to get rid of this? You mind if I just take it? I got so many cards.
Really? People were just throwing things out?
Yeah, some of the kids who were like, ooh, I want to see this, and they play it for 2 minutes. They're like, oh, this is dumb.
Oh, so, like, yeah, because this event was like less of like a constructed tournament and more just like introducing new people to the game. So yeah, you would get those people like that wanted to check it out and then decide, oh, okay, this isn't for me, and they don't have a reason to keep the cards anymore.
Some kid just headed to the food court to get their, lunch, was just like, ooh, what are these cartoon characters? Yeah. Oh, I have to play cards? I don't want these. And I was literally just sitting by the trash can. People were about to drop them in. I was like, do you mind if I just have that? Do you mind? And everyone was like, yeah, sure. So I was playing them. I was playing the Wizards of the Coast employees who actually had some built decks. So I actually had to work for my food there.
Yep.
But I played them, and that was fun. So yeah, I just lived there that weekend. And so I acquired, like I say, a ton of cards, and like we said earlier, the rich get richer,
Yep.
And not only that, but I'm also beating a bunch of people in DCI ranked matches.
Oh,
so
okay.
All of a sudden, I get home and I'm checking the DCI like the next week when it's processed. I'm the #2 player in Georgia.
Oh my gosh! From just like the mall tour,
the #1 player. Yeah, I never met the #1 player. I never knew who that person was, where they played, what their deal was. Maybe he's the guy from week 1. I don't know.
Maybe it was.
I never found out.
Oh no, and we'll never know.
And we'll never know. So that brings us back to Galactic Quest, where I remember seeing the style of tournament reports I was writing with the props and slops at the end.
That was the classic
Yu-Gi-Oh!
At the time.
Section.
Yeah.
It was very, very mid 2000s bravado sort of thing, and and I wrote tournament reports partially because that's what the cool people who won in Yu-Gi-Oh! Were doing, and I was the cool guy who won in this. So, I mean, bravado, I think, mostly.
Yeah, okay, that makes sense.
On the weeks I didn't do great, but a lot of the time I was winning. So let's talk about it.
Yeah, it's kind of toot your own horn a little bit and
toot my own horn a little bit, and also just kind of little selfish desire to be like, hey, those card of the day writers, that's neat. Maybe if I write enough, they'll notice me. And eventually they did.
Oh, that's awesome.
So I joined so I was a card of the day reviewer, and I was just like, and because it's the mid 2000s, you just use your real name on the internet. Nothing could possibly go wrong. So there's Lee Sandow made tournament reports. Lee Sandow writing card of the day is under his real name. And so I just started doing all that, and I was just writing and doing tournament reports and occasionally doing lore articles or writing about the Kaijudo code and just kind of whatever I felt like. So a lot of the time I'd be playing my blue white control deck, but after a while I was like, well, let's do something else. So I'd be we're only doing green this week. We're doing mono green. There was the one week we're running all 5 colors in exactly even numbers.
Oh my gosh.
Let's go. That went okay.
Yeah,
but the mana system in Duel Masters allows you to do it, so why wouldn't you? Try it.
And it's interesting as the reader to like following your story pretty much of like trying to win all these 5 civilization tournaments and stuff, and how you had like that same deck that kind of kept progressing and like getting new tweaks as it went on, so you could kind of follow that progression. And then at the same time you have like the filler episodes of like you had tournament reports of like the draft weeks and like you said, like the mono nature and like the 5 colors, and so it kind of broke things up a little bit and kept the readers more interested maybe. And so I definitely remember like back in that time there was just like a lot of people that were kind of inspired from reading your tournament reports and made similar decks too, and so I think that had like a pretty large influence on the metagame at the time.
And that's incredible to me because that's never really what I set out to do.
Definitely.
I was just writing about stuff. And look, and I went back and reread some of them after watching your video about this. I was like, what did I even write? Like half the stuff that I went back and reread most of them, only cringed myself inside out a few times.
It
was the mid 2000s, people. We survived. Let's move on.
I always like it. I love it, but I hate it at the same time. I'll just like every now and then I'll go back to Pojo and I'll just find all my old posts, and some of them are just so bad and like. Yeah, it's like you want to delete it, but you almost want to just keep it preserved in history. Like this was an era that happened.
I'm just gonna go with your Indiana Jones theming and just say it belongs in a museum.
Yes. So
just leave it.
The Museum of the Pojo Archives.
Yeah. So we evolved all that, and every time you bring up the Tournament of the 5 Civilizations, I've just been doing this. So I think it's time we go ahead and explain to everybody why.
Let's talk about the Tournament of the 5 Civilizations.
So for anybody joining us who does not know what these are, these were kind of the big local events. There was only like one per region area, basically.
Yeah, like one per area, and then one per like set that was released. So I think the first one was with set 4, Shadow Clash. And then after that every time a new set came out, there was a new Tournament of the 5 Civilizations. And so this was like
I played, and
it was the big thing that everyone was preparing for, and they want to do good at the Tournament of 5 Civilizations. This was where everyone went like full try hard to try to win. Yeah,
because there was obviously the booster packs or store credit, whatever your store was doing, but there was also a plaque that they gave out to everybody that you could proudly hang on your wall. And this is where I'd hang mine if I had one. You have one, don't you?
I have 2 actually. But they're back home in Chicago, and I'm in Japan now, so I wasn't able to bring a lot of that kind of extraneous stuff with me because I have to pack everything in a suitcase.
Yeah, I imagine you had to pack pretty light.
So unfortunately, I don't have that kind of stuff with me to use as a show and tell right now. But I have a picture, so maybe I'll just like slap a picture up in the corner here.
Yeah, you just slide it on the corner right there.
Yeah, I'll slide it in maybe, or maybe like flashes up from the middle of the screen. We'll do some kind of animation on it.
Yeah, hold on. Let me just look indignantly away from it real quick. Okay.
Yeah.
So I bring all this up because I participated in 3 of these things.
Do you remember like which sets they were?
I went off to college. They would have been the first 3. So if we started with Shadow Clash, it would have been Shadow Clash. It would have been
Survivors, and Stompatrons.
That's correct.
Okay.
Yeah. So those were the 3 I played in, and I was always the bridesmaid because in all 3, I lost in the finals to someone who I had previously beaten in the Swiss.
Oh, that you actually someone that you actually beat before.
I had beaten them in the Swiss every single time because we did Swiss and then cut to top 4 or 8.
Yeah.
So to Austin Ladshaw, Stefan Slack, and Stephen Cantrell in that order. I'm very happy for you. Congratulations on your win. I'm not bitter. But yeah, so never quite got to go home with one of those plaques, but I know they were well loved by their winners. They told me so, and I believed them. So that was
mine were well
something
loved.
I unfortunately missed out on, but it was still a tremendous amount of fun.
Yeah, I remember my first tournament of Five Civilizations. I was horrible at the time. I can't remember what deck I was playing, but it was not very good, and so I didn't make the top cut. But my friend Michael, who was you probably know from the Progression series and the History of Duel Masters, I felt like me and him, we were about equal in skill level. And I guess he just got really lucky in his matches because he somehow made it to the finals, even though, like, he'll even admit it, like, in hindsight, his deck was horrible. And the player in the finals was somebody with, like, the classic Crystal Lancer fighter duel thing, like, blue-green Evo deck. And so Michael, he just got destroyed in the finals. And I remember sitting there watching it. I'm like, wow, like, I want to be like that. I want to win the next tournament. And so after that, I spent so much time in my room alone, just like building decks and trying to replicate what I saw there. And I managed to win the next one, actually.
Great. So when you were building decks in your room, did you sit at a desk and do it? Or were you me who sat in the one cleared area on your otherwise covered floor?
Yep, I just on my floor, laid out all my cards, just built decks, and then I would just play against myself to test them. And so that's
good, man. That's what I always did.
Yeah, that was what I did. I can't even tell you how many hours I spent alone in my room, just like playing these cards. I did have a brother that played, and so I play tested with him a little bit, but he wasn't as like deeply involved as I was. So I had to take that extra time to keep play testing to make sure I could do well at the next tournaments.
Yeah, I would go home. I'd iterate. Austin Ladshaw, who I mentioned, he and I were in orchestra together. We went to the same high school.
So you were in the same high school
before school started.
Oh, yeah. Interesting. Yeah, I actually I wanted to bring up Austin because you did mention him a lot as kind of like your rival in your tournament reports.
Very much.
And so maybe you could give us a little bit more background on this rivalry and how you met. And I mean, apparently you're just at the same high school, so that's probably how. But yeah, maybe you could tell us a little bit more about this rivalry.
Yeah, so obviously met Austin in high school, and he only ever played Duel Masters. He wasn't one of the Yu-Gi-Oh crowd, so I was just gave him cards one day. I was like, "Boy, play me with this," because several of my other Yu-Gi-Oh friends, they didn't get it. My high school Yu-Gi-Oh friends didn't get into it, and so he got into it sometime around Evo, if I remember correctly. And unlike me, who's playing blue-black control, he went the red-black control route. Was very much his thing. And as I'm sure you're aware, control matchups can be long, grindy, incredibly frustrating, and leave everybody with a bad taste in their mouth, like a good game of control deck should. Yeah. That's the whole point. So it very much built to that, and combined with the fact that we'd play each other, most days of the week. We'd show up with our cards, we'd have changed something, we'd be trying something different. So there was a lot of back and forth there, and of course, he was, of all these people, he's the one I spent the most time with, because I also have class with him and stuff like that. Yeah. He was a year younger than me, but we were in orchestra together, all that. So eventually it culminated at that first tournament of the Five Civilizations. And I went back and reread this tournament report, and rereading, I was like, oh my God, it really was awful, because I'd beaten him earlier in the day in the Swiss. We played game one of the finals, and I literally just saw the moment where the light bulb came on over his head.
Oh, no.
Because of the way we were playing our stuff, if he just kept killing my stuff, he couldn't kill me by breaking my shields, because that would give me card advantage. He killed me by decking me out.
Oh,
and that's
interesting.
in game two what he did.
Yeah.
So game three, and of course now I realize, I know that he knows that I know.
Yeah, you get the mind games going now.
You do. And we came down to a final turn. Neither of us had any shields left. He had an attacker and a blocker. I think it was a Bloody Squeedo. I had one attacker. We're both in top deck mode. I have one creature and two spiral gates left in my deck. And this is what my tournament report said, and past me, I believe him. So I had to draw for that final draw. I hit the creature. I couldn't get past the blocker. He killed me next turn.
Oh.
So And that's how it crumbled. There was 3 cards left, and he took it. It came down to the absolute wire. It was a fantastic game, and so of course, he maintained rival status, and of course, Stefan Slack, who I knew from the Pokemon card days, who was very much my Pokemon rival.
Oh, okay.
He took the next one. In that tournament report was on Pojo. We actually, all of us sent our content in together. We color-coded it.
I remember
obnoxious.
when we were filming the History of Duel Masters, we talked about that tournament report a little bit.
I remember seeing it scroll by on the screen. Yeah,
because that was like for that tournament, like we didn't have very many reports to go on, but then there was just like, here's this one report that has like 8 deck lists on it, and like 5 of them made top 4 across the 2 age divisions. So it's like, all right, here's the history. It's right here. Like this is the thing that preserved this set in time, and so we used a lot of those deck lists to make that episode.
Yeah, and Stefan, being the very humble person he is, his deck list that day was "It Beat Lee."
Oh my gosh!
I remember Michael in the comment section commented on. I thought that was hilarious.
Yeah, he's like, he knew what he wanted and he got it, or something like that.
He got it.
He did.
And he got it. So that was great.
And that's like I miss those days where people actually would like name their decks.
I know. It's so, everything these days, it's just color, objective.
Yeah.
Maybe
just like,
named after one key card.
Yep.
So it's like, I had the Dark Tide. I know Austin's deck had a name that I didn't write down, and I'm not going to go click search for it real quick.
Yeah.
But a lot of them had different names, and we all had our, like, we had a little, now defunct, I looked for it, Team Galactic Quest website that had all our shots on it. And, yeah.
Did you ever try the
2000?
Oh, I was gonna say, did you ever try looking on the Wayback Machine? Yeah.
I don't actually remember what the URL was, so that's the hard part, trying to find it. I wish I could, because if that still existed, the 2004 cringe there.
Oh, it would be beautiful.
I wish I could find it.
Oh, that's disappointing.
It was like all the folks I mentioned were on there, and the Tyler and Patrick Smallwood were on there. The 3 Fordham boys, whose names I can't recall, they were very much in the younger junior division.
Yeah.
Matt number 1 and Matt number 2. Just all sorts of different folks who played there. I'm not forgetting anybody, am I? Sorry, I've got a document here with all my shout outs on it. So I'm just making
make sure you catch everyone.
Yeah, and we didn't have Andrew Phillips as part of Team Galactic Quest. He'd come by sometimes. Andrew's a Magic the Gathering player, Duel Masters player, and one of the top 4 at the Continental Championship.
Yeah,
absolutely phenomenal player. So, and I want to say one of his deck lists made your thing, or at least he got a mention.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure he got. I know we had a deck list from him. I don't remember if it actually got used or if it was just like posted in one of the intros or something, but it's definitely in there somewhere.
Yeah, absolutely phenomenal player. So he was also from our area, and he did a few tournament reports, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, I think so.
But he also, I think, ran his own shop some of the time, so I know he was pretty busy. I was going through all my stuff recently, getting my show and tell together for, I guess, the show and tell section that we'll get to.
Yeah, we'll get there momentarily.
I found his like business card. He had taped like a printout to the front of a Magic the Gathering card. Like, I assume it was just a basic land. I didn't
something like that.
But those were his business cards, which I thought was
cool.
Really cool.
Yeah. So I was just gonna say, like, it sounds like your community at Galactic Quest was like fairly large. Like, how many players did you have going to your tournaments?
It depended. I'd say we had about a good 10 or 12 regulars who were there, who we all knew each other. And then, of course, we had a bunch of other people who just kind of floated in and out. Sometimes you get someone new. Justin Florio, I apologize. I left him out earlier. I met him because I was doing an online trading through the Pojo.com forums where, we'd get something top loader, we'd send it in the mail. That's how I got my New York City Yukon promo, because I wasn't in New York City and I wanted one. So
I never got one.
Ended up doing a trade with him, and we exchanged addresses and private message, and it turns out we were 10 miles away from each other. So I was gosh. My dude, Galactic Quest, show up, let's go.
So did you just do the trade at Galactic Quest then?
No, ironically, we actually did that one by mail.
Oh my gosh, that's funny.
He did end up joining us there later and became a regular too.
Yeah.
So
that's awesome.
So that's a funny story.
So
yeah, so we'd have good numbers, and sometimes Galactic Quest we'd have like around New Year's Eve we'd have overnight lock-ins where we
oh wow, that's
basically
really
just
cool.
had nonstop tournaments going. I remember we did a midnight draft, and this was when the most recent set was Rampage of the Super Warriors, because we
Yeah,
got
yeah.
like 3 packs of base set and 2 packs of dealer's choice of either Evo Crushionators or uh the one I just said.
Rampage.
And Rampage, thank you.
Yeah.
And yeah, I went with Evo Crushionators because it's got Bark Whip and Corral in it, and
Yeah, oh,
I like winning games.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. I would pick Evo over Rampage any day. Rampage was horrible.
Rampage was kind of a nothing burger of a set, bless
Yeah.
its heart, but they can't all be winners.
Right, right.
But yeah, so I did Evo Crushionators, and that night was fun. I left at like 8 in the morning because it was just a full-on overnight lock-in.
Oh, that's awesome.
I played cards all night. It was so much fun.
Yeah, so like you guys had all these like cool events and stuff like that, but like I look back at the Chicago scene, and we had just the Tournament of Five Civilizations, and that was it. And even those were like we didn't get that many players at them. So I'm curious to hear your thoughts on like I don't want to say like the Atlanta area is small, but I feel like Chicago is a bigger area, but we had like
Sure.
nothing. Whereas Atlanta is a little bit smaller, but it sounds like you guys had like a more thriving community down there. So I'm curious to hear your thoughts on like what do you think made like the community in that area like so big and so active relative to some other areas in the U.S.
That's tough to say. I feel like it was kind of just a lot of right place at the right time. There were a number. Gwinnett County is where our story takes place, is a suburb of Atlanta. It's one of the very largest counties in terms of population and a lot of land area too.
Yeah, yeah.
So there was a lot of people. There were a lot of different game stores. Galactic Quest was already pretty big in the area, so a lot of us, being given free product certainly helped. And there were a few other stores. Like none of the tournaments of the Five Civilizations I don't remember actually took place at Galactic Quest because it was a
really?
great shop, but it was kind of small in terms of just table space. There were other ones nearby that just had more event space because that's, I think, where the big Magic tournaments were held.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So, use the same sort of thing there. So just a lot of there was a lot of young people. And it kind of just built up organically, and there was a lot of competition in our store. Yeah, there were some of the younger players who would just show up with whatever they had, or some people who just didn't feel like going meta, or just were like, look, I know it's bad, but I am playing this. Okay?
Yeah, sometimes it's fun to just play whatever.
Great. I respect it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I respect it. Like I say, when we're not playing for all the marbles, I'll show up with a 5-color deck, or I'll show up with I'll show up with some meme that Austin or somebody challenged me to do, and I'll try it. But yeah, and like you said earlier, Duel Masters is not that difficult a game to acquire a competitive deck without having to break
Yeah,
the
that's
bank.
pretty straightforward, pretty easy.
Yeah, so I feel like it was just in our area that we got a lot of interest early. We had the mall tour come through to the mall that wasn't that far away, which I know we definitely picked up a few people from that.
Oh yeah, for sure.
So I feel like there was just a good amount of publicity for it in our area. And again, a lot of us who really liked it were really competitive, and we had something to prove, if nothing else, to each other.
Yeah, yeah.
So we keep coming back every week for revenge, or to show our concept off again, or to try to keep the win streak alive.
Yeah, yeah. I think that helps
Galactic
a lot.
Quest, Galactic Quest would usually have different events, like the lock-in I mentioned, or they would do drafts and stuff like that, which I don't know a lot of places did.
Yeah, in Chicago, all we had was the Tournament of Five Civilizations. We didn't have any locals. We didn't have any drafts. We didn't have any lock-ins or anything cool like that. So I'm jealous that you had like that experience like that. And like I didn't have the luxury of having those tournaments where I could show up and play some kind of crazy deck, because all the tournaments I went to was just like the Five Civilizations, and I'm like, all right, I have to do my best at this one. Yeah.
Yeah, we had tournaments every Saturday. There'd be dozen or so people just showing up, and we'd start, I believe it was like 10:30 or 11 a.m. We'd go to the mid-afternoon. There was a Zaxby's nearby. We'd walk over for lunch. Half the time we'd be getting chicken grease on our cards. Playing cards at lunch.
I did that with Yu-Gi-Oh, but we just never had a local for Duel Masters. So yeah, so I feel like awesome.
I feel like it was a lot of that. Just we had our somewhat insular community, but we all had something to prove to each other.
Right.
And because we were writing these reports for online, again, for bragging rights as much as anything.
That makes
we
sense.
wanted to go and win, so that when one of us wrote our reports this week, I'd have to be like, and then in the finals, Matt Graysick destroyed me. Then in the finals, Austin destroyed me.
Yeah.
Then in the finals, I beat Steven. Deal with it.
Yeah.
So just whatever it looked like.
So it sounds to me like it kind of there was like this snowball effect of like once you get enough people in the community that are active and you get the rivalries going, and then you have the tournament reports that you guys are writing, and so people want to be like mentioned high up in the rankings on those tournament reports, and they want to be the one that takes the win away, and they want to write their own tournament reports, and so it kind of keeps people coming back to the tournaments over and over, and then that kind of builds up like the core community. And then when you also add in those extra like stray people coming here and there, then you've got a pretty solid community that can support having like local tournaments, which is pretty awesome.
Yeah, and all these events we did were also DCI sanctioned.
Oh,
so that
yeah.
had the added bonus of, we had our shiny, let me get this in front of the camera, our shiny, reflective, transformative Duel Masters D-Max DCI cards.
I forgot about that effect on it where it's, what do you call that? There's a word for that.
I know.
The one where it changes. I don't know what it's called anymore.
Yeah, it does. It's got like, parts of the time it's got one of the is that Bomedius? No, it's not Bomedius. I'm not sure which one it is, but half the time it says D-Max, Duel Masters, and then the other half it's... I hope my camera's catching this.
Oh, it definitely does. Cool thing. Yeah, it's that's such like a late 90s, early 2000s like kind of card thing. Like, I feel like those were all over it now. You don't really see that kind of thing anymore. Or maybe you do in like kids' products, and I'm just too old to know about those products now.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm tragically unhip, and I'll be the first to admit it. But the uber ponage, of the early 2000s, that was my scene.
Yep.
So all our events were DCI sanctioned, to get back on topic. So and a lot of the people whose names I've been mentioning, we're floating around at the top of Georgia. I've been stuck at number 2 ever since the Mall Tour massacre, and everybody else is kind of sine waving up and down. And eventually, right before Nationals, I finally took the number 1 spot. I guess just because the other guy fell off due to inactivity. Because
I think
he just, it's like I say, this person fell off the face of the world. I don't know what the deal was.
Yeah, I feel they're not going to tournaments, and they can't be gaining more points. And so if you're not winning tournaments, if you're placing high, you're still going to be slowly creeping up on them.
Exactly, and like I say, a number of second place finishes will eventually get you there.
Yep.
And so that's how I got my qualification to go to the North American Championship finally.
Nice. So yeah, maybe we can just move into talking about the championships. So like, there was normally the invites were from like winning the invitation circuit tournaments, but you got in by your DCI rating. Do you remember like how high the rating had to be to get the invite? Because I actually forgot that was even a thing that they had, where like the top players got direct invites.
From my recollection, it wasn't due to an actual score. It was just the first place person from each state.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Is my recollection.
Yeah.
Now, that could be 100% wrong. All I know is when I tried to sign up, they let me.
Okay. So, that's fair. Yeah.
Yeah. And so at that point, now remember this, for anyone who doesn't know, this was in Los Angeles.
Yep. Yeah, I can.
I'm in Georgia.
I'll slap a picture up here.
Yeah, so we were a side event to a big Magic tournament that was also happening that weekend. The Magic players very politely, routinely called us the Special Olympics. Thanks, guys.
I kind of remember that.
Yeah, there was a lot of looking down on us as the sideshow attraction, but whatever. I'm here to have fun.
Yeah, we still had a good time anyways.
I'd like to do a shout out to my grandma who generously funded that trip as an early Christmas present.
Oh, that's incredible.
An absolutely wonderful time. Yeah, Sharon, if you're watching this, thank you. So we got to do that and went out there, and like I remember in your video you were talking about how people were looking at deck lists and preparing to try to create the best deck. Mm-hmm. And this is the part that feels weird to me looking back. I just rolled up with my deck. I didn't do any research. I didn't change anything. I just made 1 or 2 adjustments to do things I wanted to do. I kept my Zagons in there because I, dance with who brought you up to this point.
Yeah, that makes sense.
I brought the deck not because it was optimized, but because it was mine.
Yeah.
Which is something that, playing Magic or something these days, No way.
Oh no,
If
no, not
if I'm rolling up to a Grand Prix, I'm showing up with a meta deck.
yeah.
I am going online, looking up what the pros are doing, looking up what my wallet will let me do, and then
Yep.
meeting in the middle.
Yep. Actually, like since coming to Japan, I've started to get involved with the Duel Masters tournaments that still exist here, and so I'm like,
Oh, I'm jealous.
I'm coming here and like I'm 20 years behind the metagame, so I'm like trying to look up like what decks are doing good, what decks do I have to know about, and like the amount of raw data that they have available online, like you can just get like winning deck lists. Like from tournaments are posted every single day. They have like a chart of like here's like 20% of the players are using this deck, 10% use this deck, and like just all the data that you can have is it's incredible. Whereas back then, like what were people going to be playing?
Nothing.
Like nobody really knew. I remember the only thing we really had to go on was that the German championship happened before the North America. So people saw what won there and just assumed that people might be using something similar, I think. And
yeah,
other than that, it was just like the tournament reports. Yeah.
Yeah, like there was a German championship. Well, I learned something new today because I did not know that going in.
Yeah, that was actually what inspired my deck at the Continental Championships was I saw the German champions deck list. I built it and I'm like, wow, this is better than what I was using before, and then I kind of just tweaked it to my own liking, and then that was what I played.
Yeah, and playing at the big tournament was so different. Forgive me for using cards that blend in with my shirt so badly, but you know, I'm playing my opening first game, and like we played competitive events, but none of them were like super competitive REL. In my very first game, I get a judge call against me because my opponent breaks my shield. I take it, I touch it to my hand like this before realizing, oh, it's a shield trigger, and I activate it. Judge! So it had touched my hand, so I couldn't activate it.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
And that had never happened to me before because no one was playing it that tight of an REL. I mean, everyone was playing on the straight, everyone was playing legitimate, but that was just the sort of thing that at home
it wasn't as serious.
Twice.
Yeah. I had a similar experience there at the Continentals, actually. It was the round 2. I was the feature match, so there was like that stage, right?
Oh, you were?
Yeah. So I was playing on that stage.
Oh, that's so cool.
And I was playing control, so I had like core isles and stuff, and my opponent was playing like a rush deck. And so he has like some fire creature on the field. It's his only card. I core isled it and end my turn. And he just does like the classic like, okay, I'm just resummoning it, just like go ahead, right? And so then I draw my card, I'm taking my next turn. And anyways, like maybe a turn down the line, my opponent's like, wait, did you like draw an extra card in there? Why do you have so many cards in your hand? And so he like called the judge on me, like it's like, oh, this guy drew an extra card. And it was just like he forgot that like there was that turn.
Time walked my corral.
Yeah. So there was like that turn that he just wasn't thinking about. So that's where he missed the card. And so the judge came and like had to count all of my cards. And I was like, how old was I? I was like 13 at the time, maybe. And so somebody at this big high pressure tournament, and I'm on the stage, and it's like, oh, are you drawing extra cards? Are you drawing extra cards? And so I was crying afterwards, but the judge said everything was all good, and I ended up winning the set. And yeah, he felt bad and he apologized later, and that we were all good at the end. But the pressure of the situation was a lot for 13-year-old me.
Oh yeah, those events, if anybody has never played this, I did this event, I've done some Magic the Gathering Grand Prix where I played in the main event and didn't flame out after 3 rounds. But anybody who's never played like 9 best of 3 rounds of card game in a day, I left that event just white, man. I was melting into my seat.
It's difficult. It's so hard.
It's so hard.
My friend Michael always says, like, after a day of a tournament, 100% of the time he'll go home with a headache, and like, I get it. It just takes so much out of you to keep thinking all day, nonstop, pretty much.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, these days, if I'm doing an event like that, I've got like 3 sticks of beef jerky, an entire bottle of ibuprofen, and several bottles of water with me. It's a lot. It takes so much out of you because you have to be on at all times. Because you got to be playing correctly and not accidentally missing your shield triggers. And you got to be thinking about the strategy. Be like, what order do I attack in? Do I try to do this? Do I attack with Horrid Worm first to make him discard? Or do I try to break a shield first to cheat his hand? What do I do? it's unending.
And then on
And the
top
food
of
at
that,
convention centers always suck.
Yeah.
So you're not getting good lunches either.
yeah, oh yeah, you're eating horrible each time. But then on top of that, like
Yeah.
for the Continental Championships, like if you had a high enough record, you qualified for day 2, and then it's like, all right, well now you have 5 more rounds the next day, and then if you're in the top 4,
I
then
dodged that bullet by.
yeah,
Then
yeah.
you have to play on the feature area for real prizes, and everyone's watching. So I remember they had like a raised walkway around where we were all just hovering over these poor people playing cards.
Yeah, I actually have some pictures of it. I'll put it up there, or maybe up there. I don't know which way I'm pointing right now, somewhere. But yeah, it's like people were watching. It was such a high pressure.
Mm-hmm. Did you make day 2?
I did make day 2.
Oh, nice.
So after day 1, I was 7 wins and 1 loss, and so I think I was
nice.
like in the standings. I was like in 3rd place or something like that. And so the next day I didn't do as well, and I moved down a little bit. So I just missed the top 4 cutoff, and I got 7th place.
Oh, that's rough.
But I was still like, for being 13-year-old kid, I got like a $400 gift card to Comp USA, and like that.
Yeah, that's cool.
When you're 13 years old and like you won the free flights to go out there, and then like you won this gift card for $400, like life doesn't get any better than that as a 13-year-old. So I was pretty darn happy with it.
So you won your invitational. That's how you got to go out there?
Yeah, I won the invitational.
Very cool. Very cool.
It was actually against Michael. It was against him in the finals. So.
Oh man.
So he got the qualification, but he didn't win the flights. I won the flights. But luckily, we actually, me and him went to the same high school too. So our parents were like knew each other, and we were good friends, and so we made it into we went together to the championship. So he was still able to go, and so.
That's great.
It was me, him, and both of our moms.
That's fun. Yeah, I went with my mom and grandma. We made a trip out of it.
Yeah. It was good times. Good times.
And so that was great. I think my overall ranking was like 42nd, which, if I remember correctly, was like kind of dead middle of the pack.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I feel like, I don't know why, this number could be entirely wrong, but for some reason the number 89 stands out in my head as like the number of players.
That sounds correct. That sounds right.
That number might just be pulled out of my ass for all I know, but that's for some reason what my brain tells me.
Well, if it is, you made it sound convincing. I believe you.
And I mean, if you said you got 42nd and you felt like that was middle, like that like checks out. So
it tracks.
Yeah.
Yeah. So in addition, of course, to my very cool shirt that is a lot tighter on me than it used to be.
Yeah. Let's jump into the show and tell.
Oh yeah. So I mentioned earlier that I wrote for Pojo.com, and a lot of the card of the day reviewers were out there. So I got my promo Korile signed by a bunch of them. I did not put my own signature on it. I thought that'd kind of be a little gauche, you know.
Oh yeah.
So it was fun to get to meet all those people. But the thing that I think is the coolest, this copy of Zagan Knight of Darkness that I got, and I managed to get it signed by the top 4 players in the adult bracket.
That's so cool.
Yeah, I was very, very happy with that, and I wish I'd thought to write their names down in advance so I could say who they all are.
Yeah.
The text on the screen, maybe.
Yeah, maybe. I know. I remember
maybe.
There was Tom Kapoor, because we have his deck list. He was the winner. And then who was it? I feel like we had the name
Andrew
of the
Phillips
second.
was one of them.
Yeah, Andrew Phillips. There was one other name that we had, but I cannot remember off the top of my head. I hope I could put it in there. I think it might just be a first name. It might just be like John or something like that. I don't know if we have a last name.
I can't make heads or tails out of these signatures.
Yeah.
So I don't think I'm going to be much help to you there.
Yeah.
But this was pretty much the deck I played. I've made a few minor adjustments because at the time this tournament took place, it was in October?
Yeah, it was right? October 2005.
Yeah, and I had started college in August of that year, so I was no longer in Gwinnett County. I was no longer playing at Galactic Quest on weekends, and there was no card game scene in my college town. So, and that's another reason my deck was probably woefully undertuned for the event, is because I hadn't had the opportunity to practice.
Yeah, so you probably missed out on a set or two then.
I more or less had. So I was playing a little behind and playing a little loose in terms of strategy, unfortunately. But I did go back on like winter break that year, right as I believe Shockwaves was coming out. Because I got some Shockwaves guard my deck, and they must have come from somewhere.
Yeah,
maybe that was the following summer. And I remember we had an invitational for the second championship that was going to take place in, was it Charlotte, North Carolina?
Yeah, Charlotte. No, not Charlotte. Charleston, South Carolina.
Charleston, which I was again gunning for because that's in my backyard. That's me getting in a car and driving. I'm not getting on a plane this time.
Yep.
So that would have been a lot more doable for me. And I'm trying to remember I didn't do a tournament report for this one. I remember doing reasonably well, and I think I made like Final Four. But unfortunately, in one of those games, there was a big gameplay error by my opponent. He cast I remember it was a terror pit and then later we turned out there was no black mana in his mana pool,
no, yeah,
but it was too late to do anything about it, and we didn't notice it till way too late to do anything about it, and I did end up losing that game, which cost me it. That guy, even though that guy was like wasn't gonna go and knew it, which I was like,
oh, that sucks. That makes it even worse,
because that's poor sportsmanship. Yeah, come on, dude, you're not going anyway, throw the game.
Yeah,
of course I can't offer him anything in exchange because that's collusion, and then I'm out.
Then you can just get like straight up banned for that, so it's like you had to just accept it. Like if you lost that, I mean, there wasn't anything you could do.
Took my licks. I didn't get to go, sadly, but I did get to play a few more times, get a few more promos. I went through and sorted all my cards recently on my nostalgia trip, and I'd like to thank my wife for helping with that.
Oh, nice.
It took a lot longer than I thought it was going to. So
every time I sort
Claire,
through old
thank
cards,
you for that.
Takes forever.
It does, but still found a lot of other cool things. There was a program that I had actually forgotten about called the DMAX program that you just could sign up for. And then every couple months they'd send you a care package that had like a set list of the new set that you could put into your card binders. One of the times they just straight up sent a card binder, or they'd send like this one that's got stickers and there's like a cardboard punch out I can use to build the dragon.
Do you remember, was there like was it like a subscription fee to be part of this program? I cannot remember.
I don't think it was. I think it was just sign up and they'd send you free swag periodically. I remember it was just so fun. I'd come home from high school and be like, I got mail. It's not the U.S. Army.
Yes. So oh my gosh, it is always so much fun, and like you didn't know what you were gonna get, and like you had just like cool stuff, like that cardboard punch out, like that was so cool back in the day, like building a 3D version of this this card that everyone knew. So and they sent like fridge magnets. They're the exact size and shape of a real card. Like I've got a big fighter dual fan. That's the one I have.
Evolution. And I've got a few others. They're in the other room. I didn't bring them with me, but I got one from I think every civilization except Darkness.
Oh, okay.
And of course they sent a bunch of other stuff. Like they sent this certificate that proof that you had follower of the Kaijudo.
Oh, that's incredible.
Sign your name to. And
that's something you should frame and put on the wall. Those prints are so sick.
It has like Balam, and on the back it's got all sorts of trivia about him and just really cool stuff there. So we get these periodic. Like apparently, Balam's lifespan is short but sweet. Food, anything alive within their vision, and his phylum is chordate. His class is bird, and his order is demon command.
Wait, he's a bird?
Have an entire. I mean, I guess there's wings.
Maybe if you can afterwards, can you like send me a picture of this and I can slap it up on the screen and everyone can get a chance to read it?
I'll send you. Okay. Yeah, I'll be happy to do that.
This might be something new that like
screen.
Maybe this is new. People might not know about this information. This might be like never before seen.
We've got the lore. Okay, here's Billion Degree Dragon. His lifespan continually renewed. His food is victory.
Oh, okay.
Phylum, chordate, class, reptile, order, armored dragon.
Oh.
Yeah, there's all sorts of stuff. An extremely powerful armored dragon. Only the most patient and powerful of Kaijudo masters will summon this legendary creature. There's a lot here. So
that's
okay,
awesome.
I'm going through all this. I need to like scan this for posterity.
Yeah,
the internet is counting on us.
I know like people in the comments would love to just like see that kind of stuff, because a lot of the people that watch this channel are are people that like didn't really have the chance to go to tournaments and play the game as much when they were younger, and so they're kind of getting more into it now and like reliving those old days and like seeing this stuff for the first time. So yeah, I think it'd be really cool if we could get some of that. That'd
There's
be
a bunch of other stuff, like I like have this comic book from Free Book Day, where this one takes place like a mixture of on the table and in universe.
Yeah, I remember I had a comic book like that I got from the mall tour, and the artist of the comic book was there and signed it, and so I've got that.
Oh, that's sweet. Yeah. That is cool. And then I've got this Scholastic little book that.
Wait, I have a book, but it's different than that one.
Yeah, I know you had the one that you held up in your display.
Yeah.
Is your little Indiana Jones bit. So these like have actual descriptions of a duel in them, which is every bit as thrilling to see written out as you think it is.
Yeah.
Turns out this is a bit more of a visual interactive medium. I also found apparently I've got these card sleeves that I got a whole box of once upon a time.
Oh, I've never seen that.
Yeah, like the only ones I could find, but they actually are Duel Masters branded. They've got, what's his name? Is this Earthstomp Giant?
Yeah, I take Earthstomp Giant. That's so sick.
I think so. So I actually have enough to sleeve a whole deck for those. I found my my championship badge with my name on it.
Yeah, actually, you were in the older age division, so yours is blue.
I was.
I still have my badge.
Yours was red?
Yeah, mine was red. So I forgot that they had like the two different colors, so that's cool.
Yeah, I remember they had the big cutout of Bliss Totem, Avatar of Luck there.
Yeah.
That I think I still have on my Facebook page. So I'm going to send that to you. Look at the corner of his screen right now to watch an 18-year-old man embarrass himself. So that's fun because I was doing his pose, his little dancing pose. So that's very fun.
That's awesome. I can't wait to see that.
Yeah. And I remember when in your video of your super rare binder.
Oh yes, it
ended up just being full.
Yeah, it's in there.
Yeah,
oh my
gosh. I mentioned Holy Awe as my chase card earlier.
Oh my gosh, I've never seen so many Holy Awes at once.
I have a problem.
What the heck?
I may have a problem.
See, like, Garabon is a common, and I just got people to give me their Garabons for free. I'm like, oh, you pulled a Garabon? Let me take that. Nobody's going to just give you the Holy Awes, so that probably took a lot of effort to get that many. That's amazing.
Well, yes and no, because you got to remember that starter deck they gave out at the mall tour that I acquired a bunch of from people who didn't want them came with a Holy Awe.
Oh, it did have a Holy Awe.
Yeah, by the time you have a page of Holy Awes, you might as well have two. And by the time you have two, you might as well have four. And that's to say nothing of the promo Holy Awe that's out there too.
Yeah.
So basically, anytime I was doing a trade and it was just coming up a little short or something, if anyone had a Holy Awe they weren't using, I was like, just give me the Holy Awe, dude.
Yeah. Oh,
because a lot of the time, I'd have so many cards, I'd have bunches of extras. Like that's just my trade binder.
Yep.
There, the one behind it and that other one tucked over there in the corner. Those are my collection binders where I've got one of every card organized. I've got the puzzles.
Oh yeah, I have some of the puzzles.
Both sides. And they
checklist.
sent us in the DMAX program. They sent us the little checklists that and of course, then they've got the puzzle pieces. They form a puzzle.
It's so funny
each one
because
has like one card that's different on each side that's rarer than the other. So I had to solve both because why wouldn't you?
It's funny. Like
on the rare one.
I'm looking at that now, and I had the same puzzle in that same binder before, and I feel like I'm looking like, wait, you stole my binder? That's my binder? But I feel like so many people probably have like the same thing. Like, I bet so many people did the same thing. Put the puzzles together, put it in the DMAX, wrote this binder. Yeah, if you got to put an advertisement in your card pack, that's how you do it. I went out of my way to collect them when my wife and I were going through the boxes. She was literally taking those pieces and trying to solve puzzles, and they were all mixed up. So it was like, I've got like 9 sets worth of puzzles in here. Good luck. Oh my gosh, yeah. I actually took like some of those puzzles. I took like a piece of paper, and I glued the puzzle onto the paper so it like stays together. And then I framed it in a picture frame, and so I have that on my walls back in Chicago, not here, but...
That's very cool. I remember in one of your videos where you showed that you had framed your deck. Was that the deck you took to the national championship?
Yes, that's the exact deck that I took. So, like, Like
think that
those
is such a
core aisles
cool
in there
idea.
are the same physical core aisles that I used. Like every card in there is the exact physical card that I used at the tournament. So
That is so cool. I think that's such a wonderful idea.
yeah.
Just having something to look at, and just all the memories associated with it.
Yep, yeah, so many good memories from that, and so I'm so glad that I have that.
So that's how I feel looking through these just from time to time. I mean, I could go look at the Duel Masters wiki and see all the same stuff.
It's different when it's like a physical
cool,
card,
but
though.
but just to thumb through this and be
yeah, I would much rather be
just
flipping
look at all
through
the different stuff.
Yeah, it's way better to flip through the physical stuff than it is to just like look at the pictures online, for sure.
Yeah, just to see them all in order. And see
is that a complete base set right
all
there?
The supers in a row.
Yeah,
it's a complete base set.
Nice.
There's Evo for at least the first 6-7 sets. I've got them all.
Oh, that's incredible.
After that, it starts getting a little, and that's about the time I unfortunately went to college. So my collection starts getting a lot choppier.
That's how it happens. Yep.
Yeah, I managed to dodge the having to acquire a Bomb Bazaar for better or worse. I have never
Probably
actually
for better.
played a game of. I have never actually played a game of Duel Masters against a Bomb Bazaar. And going into it, I was like, I'd heard about it. I'd seen people on the subreddit talking about Bomb Bazaar, and I was like, yeah, that looks potent, but I don't get the big deal. And then I saw your video where y'all were piloting Bomb Bazaar.
Yep.
I get it now.
It's way too good.
Now.
It's insane.
Yeah, that card's a little good.
A little bit.
I get it now.
I like, in a way, I feel like Bomb Bazaar not being banned or limited probably played some kind of role in the English Duel Masters decline in the end of 2006, where people kind of just got tired of going up against Bomb Bazaar every time. And
I expect so, especially with Duel Masters. Most of their sets are fairly small. The large sets were 110 cards plus 10 supers, so 120.
So 120, and then the small sets were half.
And the
that.
small sets were they were 55 plus 5. So each new set wasn't bringing a tremendous amount to the table. So if you had a set that was kind of a dud, like Rampage of the Super Warriors, that could be really detrimental to you.
Yeah.
Now, fortunately, that one got sandwiched between Evo Crushionators, which was great, and Shadow Clash, which was just, it had all the cool lore characters we've been seeing in flavor text at this point. It had Balam, Alcadeus. We have watched and we have waited. Now we act. And so it was just like a huge rush of seeing like, oh, this stuff's cool.
It had like it kind of had the hype building up to it, and then there was also like shield trigger creatures and just so many like iconic cards from that set. It's definitely one of my favorites.
It was definitely one of the big ones, and I feel like that, when you're getting such a relatively slow trickle compared to say the quarterly Magic the Gathering set, which is 250 and change.
Oh my gosh, I never realized it was that many.
Like each standard set is like 250 something cards. I'm sure some of them are reprints, but it's a lot of new stuff. So for good or for ill, that game and the metas are pretty constantly changing. Whereas it's 55 cards it's kind of a tough. Yeah, it's kind of tough to move the needle too much without power.
And a lot of times, like even like the majority of those 55 cards, like some of them just aren't even that great. And so sometimes you'd get a set with like mostly duds that didn't change anything.
And that's true. I hate to keep beating on poor Rampage, but it knows what it did.
Yeah.
It didn't bring very much to the table.
We got
and the whole playing monocolor thing that was kind of going with it wasn't where you wanted to be.
Yeah.
Because at that time, there was maybe 50, 60 total cards per color in the game. There's only so much that brings to the table. And then later sets, and I want to credit Duel Masters with this because I think they did a good job kind of slow rolling their mechanics.
Yes.
It took 10 sets before we got our first multicolor spells?
Yeah. Well, 10 sets for multicolor creatures, 11 for spells.
That sounds right. So I like that they had the slow roll, and correct me if I'm wrong, did we get all 10 color combinations in
No, we didn't.
English, or did we only got the first 5 if I remember
right. I think the next set was supposed to have like the remaining ones if we got to set 13, but it didn't happen, unfortunately. So
yeah, and I've spoken about Duel Masters Limited a couple times, but I like to return to that because Limited is it's my absolute favorite way to play Magic, which is my current cardboard crack. I'm still on the trading card game train.
Oh, nice.
So, and that's one of the things that Duel Masters, it's weird because if you're not playing with multiple kind of sets in it, 5 packs of the same one, there's not a lot of diversity there since there's only like 29 commons and
Yeah.
20 uncommons. I looked at
that's
the
true.
numbers recently because I was thinking about this. It was a lot of very sameness, and even a cool set like, let's go back to Shadow Clash. I pulled out Gadeus. Sweet, he's an evolution creature that goes on angel commands.
Yeah, where are your angel commands? The Aris Flight
At
Elemental?
rare.
Maybe?
Sure hope he got lucky.
Yeah, so it's,
Yeah,
you can't really use that in limited.
Yeah, so there was the chance you'd get this cool bomb and just not even be able to use it. So, like, the ones I did where it was base set and Evo Crushionators worked a lot better because there were some beast folk in that set.
Yeah,
but also
yeah.
the base set had Mighty Shouter, had Bronze Arm
The
Tribe.
base set was good
it
at
had
like
Aqua
introducing
Hulkus,
the
it
Evo
had
bait.
this. It was. And so I feel like it was one of those, the sets were too kind of small to draft on their own, which meant you were going back to the old wells. And I do think the base set is a really well-designed set. There's a lot of cool things at different levels. It shows what everything can do, and it shows that, like, bigger is not always better. Because, like, sure, I could pay 3 for the 4,000 point blocker in blue, or I could play 2 for Hunterfish, who's 3,000, and that's just better. That's the spot on the curve I can afford to do a Hunterfish. Because on turn 3, I need to be playing my Aqua Hulkuses, or I need to be playing, I need to be impacting.
And then also like that,
like,
you had that 3,000 power was enough to stop the Aqua Hulkuses and stuff, and that's like what the important power limit was. Like, you weren't at the time, there wasn't that many cards with exactly 4,000 power that paying more for the Phantom Fish would actually be worth it.
Exactly. And by the time they're dropping their 5-6 drops, their Zagons, their Death Ligers, their Hanusas or whatever, that's great. Have you met Death Smoke? He costs 4 mana and your dude's dead.
Yeah, exactly.
So one of the things that I always thought was weird about Duel Masters is it was very friendly for splashing, since all you had to do is put a single card in your mana zone. You're basically good. But I thought it was curious how a lot of decks would just, I saw this multiple times in your series, a deck list would just be, it'd be blue, it'd be black, and then there'd be that guy who's splashing 4 Holy Aws in there. Never expecting to actually hard cast them. I would sometimes.
Yeah, it's like
most of the time, could.
But more often than not, it's just like if it's in your shields, it's a huge benefit, and if not, then it's
just a Hail Mary.
land. So it's
yeah, it's one of those. I'm like, well, I don't have to think about what I'm putting in the mana zone this turn.
Yep.
Or later, be like, all right, here comes the aggro deck. Holy Awe, be there. And if you, and to the people who are just now getting into the game who've never done this, if you have never resolved a Holy Awe,
it feels so good.
Tapped out your opponent's team and then cracked back for the win.
Oh, it feels so nice.
Like, look, marrying the love of my life felt good. Holding my daughter for the first time felt great. Getting someone with a Holy Awe is something else entirely.
That's the pinnacle. That's it. Doesn't get any better than that.
In terms of card games, in terms of playing the most just powerful a card has ever felt, I think that's it.
When you're in that situation, you have 1 shield left, you're facing down like this massive field, and you're like, all right, well, if this is Holy Awe, I win. If it's not, I lose. And then you flip it up, and it is the Holy Awe. It's just incredible.
It is the most incredible feeling. And that's why I would just go out of my way to collect the things. Just because every time I look at a Holy Awe, it just makes me happy. Every time I look at 2 pages of Holy Aws,
it's
it
even
makes
better.
Me very happy.
Yep.
And I think that, and that kind of brings us back to the very beginning of why I found your series and stuff like that from the jump. Duel Masters made me happy.
Yeah.
I really, really like. I'm not going to say liked, because I still like. I wish I could still be playing this game. But I think in terms of accessibility, rules, speed of play, card aesthetics, just kind of everything about this game, and maybe because I was 16 and at that point in my life where I was driving in a car by myself to go to places I wanted to go, I had that kind of enough. Maybe it's because I was just at that point in my life that this is where this was my decision to do this thing with these cards on this date at this time.
Yeah, so it kind of,
that's what it is.
Oh, that's awesome. Because like for you, then it kind of represents a little bit more than just the game. It also is like that time in your life where you have that freedom for the first time. So that's,
it was freedom.
It's kind of associated with that in your mind. That's really cool.
Yeah, I am the nerd version of the guy who played on the high school team and they won state and he's still telling you about it 20 years later. That's me. That's what I'm doing. It's 17 years later, and I'm just going to feel old for a second. Don't worry about it.
It's hard to believe that was that long ago.
I look back at that. I look back at that fondly. I remember the people. I'm still friends with a lot of them on Facebook.
Yep.
I don't really use Facebook, but I see what's going on in their lives from time to time. I messaged Stephen Cantrell, was like, dude, he used your list. I messaged him and showed him the link. So it's just
so cool.
One of those, yeah, Duel Masters just makes me happy. I've moved 5 times in my adult life. For a while, these lived in my mom's basement. Now they live in one of the closets in my guest room. I take them
here now.
From
That's
time to
awesome.
time. I look at them. Sometimes I set them up in my bedroom for to make my bedroom look more interesting for when I appear on podcasts. But just getting the stuff together, going through my great big plastic tub of stuff, and finding my cards held on little metal chains. I was at the Nationals. I can't get them over my head because I have headphones on. I was wearing these things around my neck all weekend, looking to get them signed by these people. Being just the biggest freaking dweeb, and I put it on Facebook. But I don't care. It made me happy.
Yeah, exactly. I remember, like, me too. Like, I was 13 years old, and like that's like middle school. It's kind of the time where people like to make fun of other people, and I'm like the little nerdy kid going and playing children's card games. So of course there were people at school that thought it was silly, but then I was like, did you get to go to Los Angeles to play your favorite game? I don't think so.
There you go. Yeah, middle school is just abominable for everybody. And like when I was in middle school, I was attempting to do the Boy Scouts. That didn't cooperate with me. I never fit in there. And so to do something on Saturday to get me out of the house, my mom took me to the card shop where I'd play Pokemon. I found my people. I found people who we followed each other to 3 different shops for 3 different games for years, getting carted around by our parents, eventually by each other. And just, I mean, that was what I did. Was what I loved. I still love it.
That's what I did.
I fell out of card games.
And I bet that's what a lot of the viewers did too, and a lot of people probably shared the same experience, which is incredible. And I definitely have so many fond memories of that, and like where I would be today had I never got into card games. Like I honestly have no idea where I would be in my life. It had like such a big influence on all throughout my life, really, that just playing Duel Masters, if I never played it, I probably wouldn't be in Japan right now. I'd probably I don't know, maybe be working a boring office job somewhere. But like, yeah, it just influenced me in so many ways that I never would have thought when I was just this little kid going in and playing silly card games.
Yeah, and it's just all sorts of like just the connections we met. Just I've talked about my friends there. I've talked about this. Most of the friends I've made in my adult life, I made by bumping into people playing in Magic the Gathering tournaments. They have slept under my roof. I have eaten their food. I have drank their wine. They have crashed on my mother's couch outside Atlanta when we went to Atlanta for card tournaments. It's 9:30 on a Friday night. I'm talking to a gentleman halfway around the world because we played this game together. We were at the same event 17 years ago. And I gave him bunny ears. You
did give me bunny ears. I always forget about that. That's so funny.
I know. I saw that picture. I was like, oh my God, we're in a picture. What a world. That's what we need to do for the thumbnail of this video. We need to I'll take a picture of me beside a wall and you can digitally put bunny ears behind me.
Oh my gosh.
Pay me back.
Yeah. Oh, that would actually be incredible. I'll cut it out and put us make it look like we're in front of that. I'll make it look like we're in front of the Bliss Totem. And then put it side by side, do 20 years later or whatever. I guess it's not quite 20, 17.
Round up. It's close enough.
It's 20 years later. Good enough.
Oh my goodness. Okay, I'll make sure to do that because that's hilarious.
Yeah, that would be perfect. See, I think.
I guess that's.
Yeah, I mean, we've been talking for almost an hour and a half now, so maybe it's getting a little bit long for the viewers. So
this
maybe
might be.
Yeah, maybe we'll wrap it up here. Is there any last shout outs you wanted to give, or anything we missed on?
No, I feel like I've kind of hit it all. I name dropped all my old friends who are still friends in here, even if I haven't heard from a lot of y'all in a while. I still think of y'all fondly. I still think of just all this. Like I said, this was a point in my life. I found something that I truly loved and latched onto it. and it's still there.
Yeah.
And just, I know, Wizards guys, I know you already tried to relaunch it as Kaijudo. I know it kind of flopped horribly, but third time pays for all, right?
Yeah.
One more time, maybe.
As much as I would like really love for that to happen, I don't see it ever happening. But
I don't either. I don't think the trading card market is open to anything not attached to a major IP at this point.
Right, exactly.
I feel like I hear the Digimon trading card game has a lot in common.
Yeah, I know a lot of people that used to play are playing the Digimon game now.
Well, I'll look into that, but hopefully to everyone who still has the opportunity to play or has a local play group or who lives in Japan and is able to go play there, keep it up. Let's just keep fighting the good fight and keep this alive and keep telling people about it.
Yep, keep doing that. And also, like, we'll just give quick shout outs to all the other like Duel Masters content creators out there that are keeping this game
100%.
alive like after all this time. So here we are still talking about it, even though there hasn't been new sets in 16 years since the last set. So it's
16.
Yeah, I think it's awesome that everyone is still so passionate about this game that they're still around and even just like watching this video. Like, if somebody is right here in this video, that means that they cared enough about this game that 16 years after the official support ended, they sat through an hour and a half of two players just talking about and reminiscing about the good memories from this game. So that's awesome.
Yeah, and I'm sure everybody else out there has those memories too. I'm sure they have that story of the shield trigger that saved the day, that evolution creature haste that allowed them to win.
Yep.
The time they corralled an opponent 4 turns in a row and they flipped a table. I'm sure the stories are out there. We'd love to hear them.
Yeah, give us maybe in the comments if you made it this far.
Let us know.
Tell us your best Duel Masters memory. Let's hear about it. Let's hear what everyone else has to say about that. So I guess we'll just wrap it up here now that it's been so long. And once again,
that sounds good.
Thank you everyone so much for watching. If you made it this far, you're amazing. Lee, thank you so much for coming on and sharing your stories with us. It was fantastic to hear from you, and after all these years, coming back and giving your thoughts on Duel Masters and kind of returning to those tournament report days for now, I guess, if that makes sense. That probably didn't make any sense. But yeah,
I understood it.
Yeah,
it was my pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, thank you so much. We'll catch you guys next time on the Duel Casters. Peace.
Peace.